Okay, cool. All right, welcome everyone. Welcome to this fortnight's Tech Talk. I know the last couple of weeks have been AI heavy focus with Nat, which I'm sure everyone was loving. Today we're going to jump back into HubSpot, but because obviously AI is always important, we'll be touching on some of the AI features within HubSpot. But yeah, today we're going to just go over sort of 5 what I think are underutilized tools within HubSpot that you may be using, you may not be using. Or you may not be using it to the full potential. We're just going to go over those 5 tools at the end. Welcome to ask any other questions related to HubSpot or anything else, and jump in. We'll keep it interactive. So the 5 things we're going to talk about today, we're going to go over first off talking about HubSpot's Copilot feature, which is the inbuilt AI feature that HubSpot has implemented probably 6 months ago, maybe a little bit longer. We're going to talk about calculated properties, which is definitely underutilized within HubSpot. We're going to look at lead scoring and the different types of lead scoring. We're going to talk about customer surveys, which is a Service Pro feature, but I'll talk about some ways that you can also set up customer surveys if you don't have Service Pro. There's sort of like a little workaround. And then we'll talk about tasks. Tasks pretty straightforward, but I think it's one of those things in HubSpot that if someone goes and open up their tasks, they could have 100 of tasks and they're not ticking them off. And I think that's something that's always pretty important. So we'll go through those 5 topics. If you've got any questions as we go through, feel free to jump in. Feel free to ask questions as we go along. So what I'll do is I'll share my screen and we'll get straight into looking at Copilot. Alrighty. They should be able to see my screen now. Sorry, my phone's just ringing. All right, so HubSpot, recently, as it does, launched, additional products. And one of them that you might have seen down the bottom here is Breeze. So Breeze is HubSpot's basically AI sector, platform, feature, whatever you want to call it. And it basically powers a whole range of different AI related features within HubSpot. I have spoke about some of these previously. There is a tech talk on how to set up a customer service agent. But I'm going to delve into this a little bit more because there's ways that you can sort of use this in your day-to-day HubSpot life, utilizing the Copilot feature, which does appear in this top section here. As you'll see in Breeze, there's 3 different sections. You've got Copilot, Agents, and Intelligence. And we have touched on these before, but just so you're aware, Copilot is the AI support agent, or almost like a little virtual assistant that will live within HubSpot. Agents are things that you create. And again, with the customer support agent, you can build your knowledge base out and then teach the agent your knowledge base and upload other bits of information so that it understands how to answer client questions. And you can put a chatbot onto your website to do that. And intelligence is a way that you can enrich your data, and basically HubSpot will link up to different platforms to make sure that data is correct. Like I said, the one we'll touch on today is Copilot. So number one, what is Copilot? It's pretty much just like any other AI platform. It's sort of like your own ChatGPT inbuilt into HubSpot. But the good thing about it is it can pick the data that you have within HubSpot and give you information about it. So, what does that actually mean? What that means is, say, for example, you're about to go for a sales call, or you're about to meet a client and you're a bit unsure, what's happened with that client before. You don't want to have to go through the entire record. What you can do is you can find a contact. I'll find one that's, been in there a little bit longer. So I'll just go back to last year. Oops. I'll just pick a random contact out from last year. So, we've got a bit of data there. I'm just picking one at random. I probably should have had one prepared so there was stuff in it. But basically, if you click into it, and what you can do with Copilot, as an example, I could come here and go, please give me a summary of this contact record. You hit enter. And what it'll do is it'll give you information about, that contact. and what they've done and the type of things that they've done. So you can see here, all fairly generic. But you can see here it's sort of talked when Peter reached out by email to discuss potential benefits of hiring and offshoring. So it does get into specifics, and it's grabbed that by reading emails. It's grabbed that by looking at the data that's within the system. You can see here one deal. You can see here one engagement. So we've got information that we can access at a click of a button. I can also expand the details here. And what it'll do is it just gives information about the emails that have been sent. It gives more information just about the client. And you can even delve further into this. So again, just a really handy way. And I think that, using Copilot and using AI features is something that everyone's doing at the moment, but it's just how do you incorporate that a little bit more into your day-to-day life? And by, using this is a really easy way. With the Copilot feature, there'll also, just like anything, there's also a bunch of pre-made prompts that you can come in and you can grab. You can ask Copilot to add notes. You can ask Copilot to draft emails. You can ask Copilot to do a range of different things. And again, it just sort of can streamline the way that you work and the way that you get things done. So a really important thing to do is to sort of be aware of this. Now, other things that I always find that's quite interesting, the Copilot can access your data. So say, for example, we've obviously all got reports set up in HubSpot, but say, for example, I want to know how many deals we've won this year quickly, and I don't want to jump into the reports and I don't want to, have to go there, but I just want to, get Copilot to quickly ask, how many deals have we won this year? And luckily, Copilot doesn't judge on spelling, but what it'll do is it'll then go and analyze the data in the CRM and give you that information. And it can do that for a wide range of things. And what can it even do as well? You can even ask it to then create a report from this point. So you can see here, it's given me that, told us how many deals we've won, good start to the year for us. But, just having that data at the tip of your finger is something that's very invaluable. And it's a way that you can converse with Copilot, just like you would when you're talking to ChatGPT. So I suppose what I'm trying to get out of this is, you should almost have Copilot open a lot of the time, because you can ask it to do things. You can ask it to create a contact. You can ask it to, potentially draft an email, and you can really improve your efficiency within HubSpot just by clicking a button. Just give us a thumbs up. Are people using Copilot at the moment? Is it something that either thumbs up or thumbs down? Is it something you didn't really know that existed? Yeah, cool. So hopefully, getting something out, you'll get something out of this, and you'll see that if you are using HubSpot, this is something that you can, implement and start using. And like anything with AI, it's still very raw. It's still very new. What it'll be able to do in 6 months' time, 12 months, 2 years, I think will be crazy. So keep that in mind and keep that something in the back of your pocket. Hayley?
Does it ask you kind of questions back or try to learn more? Because I know sometimes if I'll ask chat something, it will just do like the best reply it could, and sometimes it's off, it's not correct. But because this is based on real data, real contacts, would it just, I'm actually not sure what you mean, can you rephrase it or something? Does it do that?
Yeah, it'll say stuff like that. Like if you go to ask it to look for a contact record and it can't find the one you're talking about, it might clarify. So it is, it does learn. It is a LMS. So we'll go back and forth like that. It is still quite raw with what it can do. Like it's not, it's not as good as using ChatGPT, I've found. But what it does access, it accesses the data that you've got in your CRM, which ChatGPT can't do, which I think is something that, in time will be really invaluable for everyone.
Matthew, I've got a question, if you don't mind.
Yeah, for sure, Tony.
What license level or subscription level do you need, both from HubSpot side and also Microsoft Copilot for Copilot to integrate with?
Yeah. This is a free tool version. It integrates on any subscription level. The thing I was going to say before is to make sure that you've got it turned on, and this was meant to be my first point, but I got excited and jumped in. To make sure that you have this turned on, because it is in beta. So it may not be, you may not have access for it on every single account. Some accounts may, some accounts won't. If you want to check to make sure that you do have access, you go to settings in the top, you scroll down to account management, and you can click on the AI account manager management section.
Okay.
Now, what you've got here, you want to make sure this button's turned on, because that'll give access to the AI tools like Copilot. This will allow it to access the CRM data. This will allow you to allow it to access your conversational data, so like emails, activities like that. And this will allow it to access your files. And you can even give access and restrict access if you wanted to users. So, you've got that setting there. So just make sure that you've checked that to make sure that, that's all ticked off and that you've got access.
Okay, thank you.
Now, the other ones we've got just with, AI, number one, you've obviously got it from data and management side, but there's also from the content creation. If you're drafting any type of content, like for example, I'm going to draft an email, and you may have already seen this, but you'll have access to utilize, just click on this one, which is in draft. You'll have access to Copilot features within the email. So as an example, you can see there I've highlighted the text. I can click refine, and basically I can go rewrite, expand, shorten, change tone, something else. If I rewrote that, it's going to jump into Copilot and it's going to rewrite it there. So again, it does exactly what ChatGPT will do. What's the difference? The difference is it's here and I can just click replace. So it doesn't mean I don't need to copy and paste from one spot to the other. It's just in the system. So again, something just to, keep in the back of your mind, start using it. It's there to be used. And it's something that, is really helpful. There's some other like AI features with content that you've probably seen, maybe not, but like a good example is with the blog feature, but the same for landing pages, the same for, generating emails like we just saw there. If we go to blogs, this whole feature here is AI. If you've got content starter, you'll have access to be able to create this. There are restrictions on what you can create in terms of you won't have access to all features. But as an example here, we've got our blog posts. I'll just click on, they've got recommended topics here. You can put in whatever you want. You can put in keywords. You can put in all that target information. Select title and it will flow through using AI. And what you won't have access to, you won't have access to these things if you're not on Content Pro, which are just basically, taken from SEMrush, which gives you data around keyword research and difficulty to rank and things like that. But I can select the blog title. Again, I'm not even really looking at it. Keep moving forward, can add a document if I want to. And then it's basically going to give us a blog post outline. And then if I hit next, it'll generate the blog. I won't hit next because it does sometimes take a couple minutes to generate. But basically what I've done is, again, I've used AI to generate a blog. Why is this different to ChatGPT? ChatGPT isn't this structured. It doesn't take you through the steps to be able to effectively create a blog. HubSpot has set it up in this manner, in the way that it believes to be the best to create blogs, so that you can get the title correct, you can get the structure correct, you can make sure it's SEO optimized, and then you can post your blog, probably within 5 minutes rather than taking an hour or two to write it. And that's the same for landing pages. That's the same for, a range of other things. And if you do go down to the Breeze, again, you've got in the overview, you've got different agents that you can access. And I have spoke about customer service agent a lot before. We haven't looked at the content agent, and that's probably because I was just waiting to get the beta approved. And so you can launch that. And just for anyone's awareness too, you can access things in beta very easily. As you can see here, you can opt in. I've opted into both these two. They haven't granted me access yet for whatever reason. But if you just click the opt-in button, it'll take you to where you can then click to opt in. So if you ever see that, feel free to do it. It gives you access to like tools, in the early stages where, they can be raw and there can be issues. But it is a really cool way to sort of stay up to date with product updates. So as you can see, content agent, we've got a few different tasks. We just looked at the blog post, landing page, podcast, case study. Some of these features are pro only, just so that you're aware, to be transparent for Content Pro. But again, creating a landing page, I'm going to go through, generate the idea. Yep. What do I need to do? Oop, there's something I haven't done here, but that's okay. And it'll just prompt you through. Page of HubSpot, and then it'll go to the next step, and then you can generate a landing page. Again, saving you, quite a great deal of time in the process. I'll just get out of that. So again, just in summary, a couple of cool little features, Copilot, check it out. And then we've also got the custom agents or different agents within HubSpot. And I'm pretty sure they're just going to keep adding to them and, enhancing how they work. The next one I wanted to talk about was something a bit different to AI, and that's calculator properties. I think it's a severely underused and underrated tool within HubSpot, because basically what you can use it for is you can, basically use additional properties and then calculate different things from that. And there's a few different things and ways that you can do it, and a few different features. The two main ones are a property for calculation and a property for roll-up. Now, what's the difference between the two? Calculations will calculate properties for that record. So say, for example, I don't know, you want to add up two different total amounts to get you've got two different products in the deal, or two different amounts, or you want to put in a gross profit, or you want to put in the cost of the deal. So you can calculate a gross profit. So you've got, the total amount being $1,000, the cost of the product 500, gross profit. You calculate that, and you can do that plus, minus, times, and you can customize. Roll up, on the other hand, will then calculate properties associated to other records. So for example, I have a deal and I want to calculate properties that are associated to contacts that are associated to that deal. And I just want to show a little example of the type of things that you can do in a live platform. So we have here, client of ours. They've basically got a pretty complex setup. They have custom objects and a few other things, but what they do is they run courses, and basically people can jump into courses, and when they do, they can purchase. Now, what they wanted to track, people who purchase courses from Google Ads compared to people who purchase courses from standard. And so we created a calculated field that basically will show when people are buying standard or promo, and then we created, and that was from a roll-up, calculating it from another association. And then we were actually able to calculate the conversion rate based off the total amount of leads that came in compared to the total amount that have purchased. And that's broken up from standard to promo. So a bit more of a complicated example, but it's something just to keep in the back of your mind, because we can use these features. How do we do that? Well, number one, we go to settings, and in settings, we scroll down. We were just in account management before to add the AI, but we're going down to data management. And in data management, we click properties. Now, what we want to do is we want to select the object. So are we using a contact, are we using a deal, or are we using some type of custom property? Oh, sorry, custom object. In this instance, we are using a deal. So what we have here, you do have different field types. You can filter by the field types. I'm just going to go to calculation, and you can see a range of different calculations that already exist within HubSpot. And some of these are, as you can see, normal, calculation score. Others are, looking at time that a deal stayed in a stage and calculating the time between. But if you want to create your own calculated property, you can go create property, select property label, do all that stuff. But the field type is where you select it. And so you can select from two. You can either select from calculation or roll up. So calculation, you've got the option to do custom equation, time between, time since, time until. And then you can pick the number output, and then basically you can put in your calculation. Now, a lot of the time when you're calculating, you're going to need to insert a different property, so you can calculate between those properties. As an example, you might go, bond amount plus something else. I'm taken, and I don't think they're numbers. So you got to make sure that it's a numbered field, number one, so that it actually can calculate it. And then that would add those two amounts together. And then that property, whatever we would call it, would equal that. Now, if you want to use a different field type like roll up, again, this is where it rolls up the associated records. And so what you need to do, go down and you pick which associated record you're coming from. So this is, in this instance, contacts that are associated to the deal. And you can pick, a property to calculate that. So again, this is more just about showing what can be done and to get you guys thinking. If you want to use it, again, calculated properties is something that you can use for a range of different things, but something to be aware of and to play around with. All right, the next one that we're going to look at, or is there any questions about calculated properties actually? No, sweet. The next one we're going to look at is lead scoring. So this is a new sort of enhanced feature. HubSpot's always had HubSpot scoring, which is basically, your lead score. That was controlled actually in the property section previously, and you create a HubSpot scoring here. But they've actually, probably in the last 6 months as well, added it to its own little setting, which I think is pretty important because lead scoring is something that is, very important. Within lead scoring, what you've got is you've got two different types of, what I might do is I might delete one of these so I can create another one because these are just tests anyway. On our plan, you get 5 different lead scores. So you've got a couple of different types of lead scores that you can calculate. In the past, it was just one, and it was more for the engagement side. So engagement is your stock standard. A contact comes into the system. I want to give them a point for every time they've been on our website. I'm going to give them a point for every time they've opened an email. I'm going to give them certain points every time they've responded. I'm going to give them points based off the way they've come in, because I know if it's a referral partner, they've got a higher likelihood to close compared to if, they've come in from a Facebook ad, which is, we've got to educate them first. And then if they hit a certain score, I can notify someone, notifying them that, hey, look, this person has hit this point, which means I believe that they're in a position where they might be ready to buy and they might be ready for a phone call. Or it might mean they might be able to receive a certain type of email that is a bit more higher engagement. When you look at contact engagement score and looking at the setup, I'm just going to go into it now. What we've got here, we've got our engagement score. Whatever we call this, it'll create its own contact field so that the score will appear there so you can see it. And what you can do is you can come in and add in event criteria. So web events, you can go through and add a range of different things. Oops, page visited, and you can filter that further by specific pages if you want, or just keep it that they've visited, your website. We might just type in the base URL being, our website. You've got other event criteria, as you can see here, ads, calls, forms, emails, a range of different things, meetings. And basically what I always find works well when you're creating lead scoring is it's something you've got to test and adjust. Because I can come up with what I think is the right score to make them engage, but you need to be analyzing that, monthly to make sure that you're at that right point, because you might either be getting too many or too few people coming through. But a really strong tool for sales reps to utilize. Just get out of it. Just delete this one again so I can create another one. And then the other one, which is one a bit different, which is a contact fit score. So evaluate how closely the contacts align with your ideal customer base. The way I sort of look at using this a lot of the time could be, number one, for new clients or existing clients. For existing clients, you could use this and set certain properties of if they might be likely to be upsold or to be available to purchase another product. So what I mean by that is if someone's purchased X product and they've been with us X amount of time, that might give them a certain lead score. And then that might indicate to a sales rep based on certain actions. Maybe they've gone back to our website, maybe they've done certain things, that they might be in a position where you could give them another call and might be able to upsell them or deal with something else. It's more based around the demographics, and it's more based around, you know, the type of person they are. As an example, for leads, you might give someone a contact fit score of a 5 if they are a CEO compared to if they are a marketing manager, which might be 1 point depending on your customer avatar. And the setup for that is pretty much the same. Are there any questions about, you know, lead scoring? Pretty straightforward. Are people using lead scoring within their CRM at the moment? Again, thumbs up, thumbs down. Cool. It is one of those ones. It is good, especially for people who do get a lot of leads in, get customers that you need to sell. You know, especially for, you know, for sales teams. So it is something that can be really handy to implement. All right, we'll go to our next topic, which is surveys. So customer surveys, obviously a really important aspect of all business. We need to know what our customers are thinking. We need to know what our customers you know, are experiencing with our service, and this is a really easy way to be able to manage that. Now, again, within HubSpot, feedback surveys are a Service Pro feature, but I will show you a way that you can be a bit cheeky and create similar things, definitely not to the user experience and level that you can use in here. But so what we have here, we've got a range of different set surveys. So we've got custom survey, which is just that. You can create it however you want. These industry standard surveys are surveys that are, you know, a global standard used around the world. And because of that, you can't edit them too much, but also on the flip side, it is a really easy way to measure yourself against other businesses because there's a lot of comparable data around these things. And, you know, as an example, the NPS score, which basically is a simple question: how likely are you to refer us to someone else? Maybe worded in a slightly different way, but basically that's the gist of it. And it's on a scale from 1 to 10. And you'll send that email and people will respond with a click of a button, and then you get your NPS score. Promoter is 9 or 10. A neutral is 7 and 8, and a detractor is 6 or below. And then you can understand your total NPS score against the entirety of your business and how you're performing as a whole. And it's a really good way to set KPIs for different things. The custom survey is a way that you can just create your own questions. So using preset properties within HubSpot, you can then fill out and ask whatever specific questions you want if you need to get more data and you want to get more information than what you have that already exists here. To create these surveys, again, we just click on them. We go next. We've got email, shareable link, or web page. So we can choose where these surveys do position. An email, we can automate that. So, you know, once they've gone through the, you know, either a customer service process, or, you know, if you've sold to them, or if they've gone through an operational process, you can trigger that, you know, based off a deal stage change or, you know, any other sort of property change within HubSpot. Shareable link, you know, make it a bit easier so you can share the link and send it out and add it into emails and do more follow-ups. And then you can actually embed them into web pages as well. We go create. It'll come to our customer survey builder. And basically, you know, it looks like any other sort of form within HubSpot. You've got some pre-set up modules, I suppose, where you can come in, you can drop and drag, you can add your text, you can add your placeholder, and you can just customize the questions however you like. So it just gives you a bit more, ability to sort of manage how you want to interact with your clients and the type of questions you have. As you go through, you know, different thank you messages, you've got the stock standard HubSpot image. So, you know, probably change that if, you know, a flying book isn't what you want. We've got the drafted email, which you can edit. You can choose who it's going to go to. And like I said before, we can filter it. You can have different criteria, different triggers that you can use. You can send it based off lists. You can send it based off a customer date. You can send it based off a deal stage, you know, which is always a really easy one. And that's actually just in beta as well, which is pretty handy because that's generally a lot of the time what you would send it off. And then you can add different automation. Some examples of the type of automation that you might create, especially for an NPS score or any score. that might come in would be if, you know, they give you a good rating of 9 or 10, you might then automate an email to say, awesome, do you want to give us a referral, or would you like to leave us a Google review? Because there's nothing worse than asking for a Google review for someone who gives you a 5 or a 2, and it's going to be terrible. If they're neutral, you know, you might send them an email, an automated email, just to say thank you. Maybe dig a bit deeper. And then for ones that are detractors, 6 or lower, you know, you might automate to create a ticket, and then it'll go through a, you know, customer retention process within your ticket pipeline. So just different things that you can do along those lines. So what are some like cheeky methods, I suppose, that you can do this without having the feedback surveys? It's definitely not as pretty. It's definitely not as, doesn't necessarily have the same user experience, but you can get similar effect through forms if you don't have a pro license for service. So what I mean by that, basically all we were doing before is building out a form. It's just in a purpose-built survey, but you could go and create a form and ask similar questions in that form. Oops, do a template. You could just add similar questions in that form along those lines. You know, how would you rate us? Add comments. You know, who did you work with? Any other thoughts? Put those into a form, and then at the end of the process, you know, send them an email. And, you know, it doesn't need to be automated. It could be you create a templated email, and, you know, you have it all preset out, and you click on your template and you just hit send at the end, so that they then, you know, can get that form, get that results. As you're probably all aware, all forms store data. You know, if we go into any form here, form saves the submissions. It does have an analyze tab, but again, it doesn't appear in the same way. This is probably a bad example, but it doesn't appear in the same way that the customer survey reports will do it. They are purpose built, but it is a way that you can sort of get around not having a Service Pro license if you need to. Any questions about surveys? Awesome. And to my last point, tasks. I'm sure most people here utilize tasks. I suppose I just want to bring it up because I know that it's something that can be very well used in HubSpot. And to pick on my business partner, Peter, for those who know him, can be used very poorly, as you can see by his tasks compared to mine. You know, there's probably 900 tasks here. And what's happened is he's someone who had some automated tasks that would triple into his task list for follow-ups and a few things. A lot of them, and to be fair to Pete, he's not working in the business at the moment. He's on a bit of leave doing some other stuff. But what's happened here is basically there's been some automated tasks that'll pop into his calendar, pop into his task list. He hasn't ticked them off, and they build up. As soon as that happens, then all your task list becomes redundant. So I suppose the point I wanted to make, number one, if you do have automated tasks, make sure you are ticking them off. Because if you're not, then get rid of them, because they're probably a waste of time because you're not doing them anyway. Or if you're doing them without knowing. Because again, what you want it to look like, go back to me to give myself a wrap, is a task list of things that you actually need to do. And as you can see from, you know, my task list, you know, I keep it tight. I keep it, you know, limited to the things I need to do. I don't have hundreds of tasks in there. I do have automated tasks that pop in. I have an automated task that pops in for a 3-month follow-up after a client is finished. But, you know, I tick that off when I do it. And so my task list is accurate. And this is where I start my day. Generally, I'll get notifications from HubSpot to say these are the tasks that are due. And I know that I need to do them because I know my task list is up to date. So, you know, many of you there might be using your task list well. Some may not. Some may not be using it at all. I find it very valuable and a really easy way to be able to track what I need to do for the day. And it's something that, you know, at the end of the day, I'll go back to and I'll review and I'll have a little look to make sure I haven't missed anything. Because, you know, the main point is I know it's accurate. If you start letting it go, then I'd either just tick all tasks and start again or just not worry about using it. Because if you're not, then it's redundant. And that's the 5 sort of underutilized HubSpot features I wanted to talk about today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys learn something and maybe take something away with it. Are there any questions about anything related to HubSpot? You know, not necessarily what I spoke about. I'm happy to take any of those questions now.
No, all good for me, Matt. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Awesome. If there's no other questions or no other points, hopefully, yeah, you guys got something out of this today. But we'll finish this up and we'll be back in 2 weeks. So have a great end to your week, everyone.
You too.
Cheers. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah.
See you guys. Have a good one.